Bring them
There are
in.
still seats to fill. Put some butts in the
There
seats.
you go.
One scripture, two sermons. That's what you're in for with this episode of The Word Made Fresh. I just discovered this, by the way. Hi, Reverend Jim. Reverend Tim Dalton, who is this Sunday's preacher and this Wednesday's preacher. Okay, pause quick. This is Jim from the future editing this video, realizing that we're not going to get this up before Space for Grace, so you're watching this and it's after Wednesday. But you can still go watch the sermon that Reverend Tim preached at Space for Grace. There's a link somewhere on screen you can tap or click, as well as in the description of this video. So click, tap, watch the sermon from Wednesday, and get ready for the sermon this Sunday. All right, back to The Word Made Fresh. Space for Grace, Wednesdays. First, it's the Wednesday after Communion Sundays at Riverside, which is this coming Wednesday. All that to say, Tim, you've got a sermon doubleheader and Isaiah 55? Okay, talk about an interesting homiletic challenge, because I feel like Isaiah 55 is one of those like, and good luck. How would you give us a frame? What's going on here?
Oh my gosh, Isaiah 55. So one of the things we've got to remember is that, yeah, we think we have it bad. I mean, these are folks that lost everything, right? They lost their king, they lost their land, they lost their temple, and now we have Isaiah coming at this group out in Babylon. Hey, we're going back. Hey, we're going to reimagine this whole thing. Hey, this is a covenant for all people. It's amazing what such a difficult, tragic thing can help the people reimagine their whole theology. I mean, the Babylonian exile is a critical, pivotal moment for the Israelite religion. And in some ways, it's also interesting that Isaiah, you probably know this, but maybe our friends out there may not, Isaiah is the most quoted prophet in the Gospels. So Jesus seems to be on board with the arguments that Isaiah lays out. So we're going to approach it that way.
And Isaiah 55 here, for the anyone who is an aspiring Bible geek, this is the end of second Isaiah, and we're about to turn the page into third Isaiah. Believe it or not, Isaiah is actually 3 books, 3 kind of different time periods, all given one name. You didn't know you were doing some time travel when you read a single book of the Bible, but you are. So we're on the verge of like leaning into the get ready to come back from exile section, and this is that transition point in the book of Isaiah itself.
Right. You said that very concisely and excellently. Yes. I mean, basically, first Isaiah was from the northern kingdom a couple hundred years before, and now we're now coming to the end of the Babylonian exile, another 150 or so years later. And then what's happening here is he's trying to encourage the people, okay, all you Babylonian Jews, let's all go back to Jerusalem. And it was actually kind of a tough sell because a lot of the people had grown comfortable and took Jeremiah up on the whole idea of making their homes there and were quite comfortable, thank you very much. And so he's trying to get people to go back to this kind of wilderness space, the ruins of Jerusalem. And it was an uphill battle. And then, of course, third Isaiah, the last 10 chapters of Isaiah is basically, what the remnants of, what's happening and how they're doing, and there's other voices. But anyway, here we are at 55. One of the things I want to look at is we're in Advent, and we're looking at joy. And one of the texts talks about, and you shall go out in joy and be led back in peace. So this is a perfect kind of text, right? Because between peace, we're moving from peace to joy. And so, wow, but the whole context around that was a jumble. And that's my idea, is like, how do we find joy in the jumble? Their lives were jumbled up. There's this thinking sometimes that I just need to get to a certain place and then I can relax. I can arrive. I can take a deep breath. No, we've got to find those. We got to carve those places out. We got to find those places in the mess, right?
Like claiming joy in the midst of that chaos.
Yeah.
When it seems like it's not the natural inclination.
That's right.
How in those moments do we find joy? It's almost like that's where joy becomes an act of resistance in spite of everything around me. It's not like you're ignoring the reality of your circumstances. It's not some, disassociation from reality, but it's just correcting the vision to be like, okay, even in the midst of this, joy is still possible. Reminds me of, is it on my shelf? I think it's upstairs. The first book I ever read by Thich Nhat Hanh was called Be Free Where You Are, and it was a lecture he gave at a high security prison. And I think just that alone, be free where you are
Wow.
in this maximum security prison. Like that to me is the sense of joy in the midst of
Oh,
whatever
I love
chaos is
that. I
happening.
love that. I might steal that. That's good. But yeah, that's it. I mean, that's it. I had a professor tell me one time that told us, the most popular course at our school was the astronomy class, and I was like, wow, that's interesting. I should probably take that, and I did. And one of the reasons it was so popular was because you could go in, you could be stressed, you can go into this class and learn how small you are. And it's like, oh my gosh, what am I sweating this stuff for? I mean, I'm just a speck on a speck.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. And guess what? My fellow specks, you are loved by the source of it all. Isn't that amazing? What joy we can find there, right?
Oh, I'm with you. It's like that line of thinking feels like it's veering towards nihilism. Nothing matters because I'm just a speck on a speck rotating around giant gaseous specks in an ever expanding universe of specks. And that's what makes it meaningful because I'm just a tiny dot, but I have breath in the midst of this vastness. Oh, we're all becoming a little Buddhist, and I like it. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think one of the other things I want to kind of extrapolate from this is like at the very beginning of 55, he talks about for everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and those who have no money, come buy and eat. Come buy wine, milk, without money, without price. And this is for everyone.
Yeah.
This is for everyone. And guess what? I think Jesus had this in mind when he's talking about the parable of the banquet, where the guy goes out and he invites all these people, and everybody's too busy. Everybody's got life. Life is lifing, and they're too busy. And then he's like, okay, well, just go out in the streets. Go out into town, grab the people, the lame, the people laying in the street, bring them in. The food's ready. Everything's ready to
Yep.
go. Let's do this. And they
Mm.
bring them in, and Luke's version's like, well, we're still not full. We've got everybody. Go out into the countryside. I mean, it's like just bring them
There are
in.
still seats to fill. Put some butts in the
There
seats.
you go. So the joy can be found. It's and there's no price. It's for everyone. You don't have to have money for this.
Mm.
It's for us all. So there's that beautiful expression expressed, and I don't know. I just imagine that Jesus was thinking of this passage when he's talking about that parable. So
So, yes, yes, yes to all of this. How do you hold this in this kind of Christmas time season? Just thinking of like your role at Riverside, Minister of Care, Pastoral Care, Older Adults. Probably messed up your title there. You worry you keep an eye on us from a pastoral care point of view. This is a season when people are dealing with a lot of grief, missing loved ones. Holiday seasons bring up the people who aren't sitting at the table anymore because they've died recently, however long ago. These are the seasons when those moments of grief feel right in our throat again. How do we enter into this joy
yeah.
when we might be feeling a lot of grief and despair? How
Yeah.
does that kind of balance?
Yeah, that's a great point. And this past Sunday, the December 7th, we had our Hope and Consolation service. So
Yeah.
we kind of acknowledge all of that, right? As we come together as a community. But yeah, it's a great point. I was reading a reflection. There's a guy named Mark Wingfield. He's got this thing. He's doing the upside down Advent, where he's actually looking at kind of in the Stranger Things kind of aspect of it, but looking at the opposites of hope, peace, joy, and love, and despair and anxiety and grief and hatred, and looking at these things um, as kind of like where people might be during this time. And for the opposite of joy, it's definitely grief and the sadness and sorrowfulness. And yeah, so we want to acknowledge that not everybody's going to feel joyful. You don't feel that. We've had a number of funerals lately where we just acknowledge, that sometimes it's difficult to find joy and it's not always what we're looking for. But sometimes joy can find us
Hmm.
when we're still and when we're quiet and when we're reflective. So I just want to look at this passage also as an invitation for people to kind of say, you know what, everything's not working perfectly in our society, maybe not in my own life, but this text is also telling me about a people who also had terrible things happen to them, and we have this prophet imploring them and encouraging them to find this new imagination that God has for them as a people, right? Elsewhere on Second Isaiah, we talk about it's no more, it's enough for us to be, that this is only about us. We are a light to the nations, right? We are this expression for the world. I go back to another professor of mine of ethics. He told me something that's always stayed with me. He said ethics comes down to two things. The first thing is we determine who's in. Who is we the people, right, of our Constitution? Who is the we? Who are we as a group? Who's in? And the second thing is, what is our obligation to us, the collective? And the story of Jesus and the story of Isaiah here, and what I think Jesus carries on this beautiful vision is that the circle is getting wider and wider and wider. Guess what? It includes us all. And so,
Yeah.
what is our obligation to love our neighbor, right, as ourselves? And so, that to me is like this beautiful, joyous reality that God is working in the midst of our very lives and in the jumble, in the
Yeah.
chaos, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, just
I love that. I love that. It's easy. It's not to negate the grief. It's not to deny or ignore it. It's to recognize that that's true, and how do we still see beyond ourselves, beyond our circle, expanded ever wider. I think William Temple was the Archbishop of somewhere and said the church is the only organization that exists for the benefit of its non-members. We don't just exist for ourselves, but for the people beyond our pews and walls and boundaries. And that's the vision we get here of maybe that's one way to find joy in the midst of that grief. It's to look beyond yourself in that moment and hold the tension of ouch, and the sun is still rising, the leaves are still changing, or in this case the snow is still falling, or all these moments that can have the reality of both all the time.
yeah,
It's not like we just want to live in this hyper fixated rainbows and Snoopy's joyland.
right.
It's how do we live in that actual tension of the two for the benefit of everyone around us.
Right, right. We're not oblivious, but we're also not panicked. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, there's a spectrum there. So how do we live in that? So yeah, that's the challenge of the text, I think. But
So,
they,
so how are you writing the sermons? There's two of them, a Wednesday and a Sunday. Give us like just the like what's the chaos of your mind right now as we're recording this a little bit in advance. How do you got drafts? Are you mentioned before we recorded that you're thinking of like two different angles for two different sermons, or just what's the Tim Dalton sermon writing process, especially with this sermon doubleheader, which everyone should come to Space for Grace and Sunday worship to hear them
right,
both.
see you there. Yeah. So with the Space for Grace, I'm focused more around the communion aspect and the meal, and the thirst and those who hunger. And then when it comes to the Sunday service, I'm focused more on the advent of joy in the midst, in that jumble kind of thing. So I'm kind of looking at the full text, I guess. So which is also helpful because oftentimes when I'm writing a sermon, I throw out as much as I keep in, so I get a chance to keep twice as much. So that's good.
All your ideas land in a pulpit somewhere this week.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So that's kind of the general thought.
All right, pop quiz at the end. You didn't see this coming. Third week of Advent. Why is it pink? What's with the pink candle? Why do we? What's
Yeah,
going
why
on?
is that? Yeah, no, I've been doing Advent wreaths since I was a child, and it was always that third Sunday. What's going on? I honestly don't know. Do you know?
I mean, I know it's connected to the Latin word Gaudete,
Ooh.
which in Latin means rejoice. So it's Gaudete Sunday, but I don't know why Gaudete goes to pink. I think I've heard it's like it's the turn where we're halfway through. So it's a change in tone as we move towards Easter, but we need someone to fact check us here. All I know is that Gaudete is the Latin word for rejoice. So week 3 is Gaudete Sunday.
Interesting. I wonder if it's like
Rejoice.
a progression of like we have this initial hope and then that gives us some peace and then we're getting joyful about it and then we move into love in Christ. I mean, I don't know. That's so fascinating. I never thought about that.
I do know that I'm going to be at the church this Sunday. I'm excited to get to be there on site for your sermon. I get to lead the message for all ages, and I'm planning on my pants matching the color of the Advent candle.
Oh, I was wondering what you're gonna do. Okay, cool.
So everyone out there, wear something pink. You can wear your red for Advent. Bring on the pink for Gaudete Sunday, Advent 3.
Very nice. That's something to look forward to.
Should be fun. Should be fun. Oh, well, your sermons plural, are something to look forward to. Everyone, if you're listening to this before Wednesday, you can join us 7 p.m. For Space for Grace. That's in the building and online. It's live streamed as well, so you can join us from wherever you are. Watch the recording of that service if you missed it later, so you can hear what Reverend Tim's not going to preach on Sunday, and then join us on Sunday. You're leading open Bible study on site, right? Is that actually a true statement? All right.
Yes, yes. I plan.
And I'll be leading it on Zoom, so we can have a little dueling Bible studies and see what ends up in both spaces. It'll be fun.
Oh, right. And you're in the building, so you have to.
Yeah, I'll just be in my office leading it. It'll be
Okay.
fun. So join us on Sunday. We got all sorts of good stuff happening around this text. Wear your pink.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out for my pink pants. Light that pink candle. Make sure everyone online have your candles ready because you get to light candles as we light them in worship, so we can have that moment together
Yeah.
wherever we are. But Tim, I always love your sermons. I'm looking forward to what you're bringing. We were saying earlier before we hit record, you've only been at Riverside for a year and a half, but it feels like you're just a regular, and that is, I think, a great feeling of how you've just become a part of our community and our team at
Well,
Riverside.
I'm still thrilled to be here. I love this place. So
We'll take that as long as we can. Still thrilled to be here.
yeah.
That's what we hope for. All right, everybody. We'll see you on Sunday. Thanks for hanging out. We'll talk to you in the next one.